Cats in War. What does that have to do with life skills for grown-ups? Let's find out. So it all started when the king of Persia wanted to marry the daughter of the Pharaoh of Egypt. Well, the Pharaoh did not want to send his daughter to be married, and so he came up with a plan so that he wouldn't create a problem between the two of them. Instead, he sent the daughter of a previous Pharaoh. And when she showed up, she was offended that she had to go, so she told the king everything and how she wasn't his daughter. And so the king of Persia was quite put out, and he was upset that he had a fake wife. So he decided to attack Egypt. It's always the woman's fault. Well, the plot thickens when Phanes, who was the advisor to the Pharaoh, got into some disagreement with the Pharaoh over camels or something, and he ran off to Persia to join their side. He was a councilman, an advisor, a tactician, a mercenary, and so the Pharaoh really needed him. So he sent a hitman to go bring him back, dead or alive. Well, they captured him, and they were about to bring him back when the night before, the Phanes decided to get all the guards drunk, and he escaped and made it to the king of Persia. Well, when he shows up, he spills all of the information, becomes an invaluable source of inside information for the king of Persia. So the king of Persia decides to go ahead and attack. In the meantime, the original Pharaoh who sent the fake wife to begin with, who started this trouble, died, and the next Pharaoh took over, Psammetichus III, and he inherited this trouble. So in the beginning, Persia came and attacked, and the Egyptians were doing really well until the Persians changed their tactic. Remember the inside information. Now that they had Phanes, and Phanes could inform them of how much the Egyptians venerated and loved the cats, they worshipped them and adored them. In fact, there was a goddess that was closely connected to them called Bastet, or Bast as some called her. She had the head of a cat and the body of a female. I guess she was the first cat woman. In Egypt, to harm a cat was to disgrace the goddess. In fact, if your house was on fire and you had a cat inside, it was your duty to rescue the cat first, then go back in and put the fires out or save your babies or your pet turtle or whatever. I know that some of you cat lovers out there are thinking, what a beautiful time to live. Well, let me challenge you in this. Back then, when your cat died, you had to mourn the cat. And part of the mourning was to shave your eyebrows. So let me just challenge you on that. Give that a try. The Egyptians not only loved cats, but they loved all kinds of animals. They found mummified pets, gazelles and baboons and birds and even fish. So having this information, the king of Persia decided to paint on the shields of his soldiers the goddess Bast or Bastet. And then he paraded in front of the troops animals, cats and dogs and ibises and baboons and everything he could find, especially cats. He put them out. When the Egyptians saw the painting of their beloved goddess on the shields of their enemies, and they saw all the animals and didn't want to harm them in the war, they just gave up and ran. The Persians chased them and actually beat them in Memphis, not Tennessee, but Egypt. And the Persian king was so full of himself that when he showed up, he wanted to show how powerful he was, and he took live cats and actually just threw them at his enemy and his foes.
Now go away or I shall taunt you a second time.
Now that's an incredible story from the past, but there's always a moral to these stories. And I love to hear your ideas. What are your ideas of what the point of this story is? Shout out to Adam Huggins, who gave us a moral last time and wrote in the comments on the dancing plague, and I thank you for that. So who is going to give us another great moral to this story? In the meantime, let me give you my thoughts about it. The idea here is to know your enemy. Well, the first thing we need to do is find out who is our enemy. Let me read you a quote from a philosophy, a famous philosophy, a religion, if you will. Our enemies are our best teachers because they ignite our anger and hatred. They force us to look at our own shadow sides, which is the first step to moving past reflexive negative behavior. Now, I got to tell you, I don't really agree with that statement. I don't think we need any help to bring out our anger and hatred. I think it's a very self-centered type of statement. Let me frame that in another way. People are not our enemies. Our enemy is not our boss. It's not our employees. It's not our co-workers. Our enemy is not even that little guy who comes and steals all our time by interrupting us all the time. Our enemy is not someone who has a different religious view from us. It's not someone who has a different political view from us. It's not even anyone on Facebook. The New Testament talks about our enemy wandering around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. And when our focus is on people as our enemy, we actually miss the battle. In fact, in Ephesians 6, it says that our battle is not against flesh and blood, not against people, but against spiritual forces of wickedness, evil places. Now, there's way too much to unpack here, so I'll leave that for your own personal study or some discussions with other people. But I just want to list off a couple of things that we have to deal with and maybe a solution that we can move forward with. One of the ways that the enemy attacks is from the inside. We have anger, we have fear, we have doubt, we have selfishness. All that's kind of natural within us. We're born with it, and we don't need any help to help that bring up. But the enemy kind of stirs that up in us when we're driving or when we're working or when we're disappointed or frustrated, and we can lash out at people. We can do things that we don't really want to do, but we find ourselves doing it. The other way is just remembering that that same thing's going on in other people, getting a perspective of other folks, that the enemy's attacking in them as well, and we need to remember that. I saw a video the other day of a lady who was talking about, she was at the drive-through and she was going to get a coffee or something of fast food, and the lady behind her was just honking the horn. She was going crazy and just ready to move on and trying to frustrate everyone, move the line forward. So the lady buying her coffee decided to buy her coffee and the coffee for the lady behind her, because she said, I don't know what's going on with this lady, but let me jump in her perspective and think maybe there's something going on, and if I can help her walk through this a little bit better, that's what I want to do. And that's the idea, is that if we can put ourselves in the perspective of other people, we don't know what's going on in their life, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt and not react so quickly. Take a moment and listen to others. Use your active listening skills and put yourself in their perspective. You'll see a blog post on that in a week or two about how to increase your skills in active listening. Another way that the enemy attacks, and it's easy for the enemy to stir up, is just the way that we view ourselves. We sometimes view ourselves as less than we are, underachievers, and we're not going to amount to anything, and I don't have anything to offer, and I compare myself to others, and I'm just not worth anything. Or the opposite end is, I'm full of myself, and I'm better than everyone, and I'm great, and look how awesome I am. The idea is neither one of those. The idea that we need to have is that we're created special. We're each unique. What is it that you've been given to be able to make life better? That I was created for a certain purpose in a certain way. And if I think too lowly of myself or too highly of myself, then it's not gonna work out well. So I need to think of myself the way God sees me, the way He created me. So just 3 quick things to kind of wrap this up. First of all, identify the enemy. Know who the enemy is. It's not others. A second thing is, recognize who you are. You are created to do good works. Don't be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Bless those who curse you. And the final thing, most importantly, never, ever, ever throw cats at people. People are not our enemies. Flies are.